welcome to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy day today. I greatly appreciate it. Well, again, I have a terrific show for you today. We're going to spend time with Commander Adam Williamson, the director of the United States Coast Guard Band. And Commander Williamson, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I know my viewers and I are thrilled that you're taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. So again, thank you for your time.
Of course.
Why don't we start with you? I received some wonderful information about the band and about you, and of course your handsome picture. So why don't we start with talking about you and your background? Tell us about yourself.
Sure. I'll say that my background is not really too dissimilar from any of our Coast Guard Band musicians, in that I became a musician at a very early age. I started on cello and I moved to saxophone in elementary school, and just very early on I really took to it. It became an important part of my life, and ultimately really being a musician became a big part of my identity. And, as I went through high school and took advantage of every musical opportunity that was afforded to me, I went on to study music in college. I went to a small music school in way upstate New York. And I had started my master's degree at Indiana University, and I was very much focused on saxophone and saxophone performance and just growing as a musician in that time. And part of my outlook had always been joining the military as a musician. It was a very intriguing career path to me for quite some time. So I set that as part of my education agenda to just audition and try to get into one of the groups, because the military bands, by and large, are really phenomenal groups that are filled with really terrific musicians and have wonderful programs. And I found a home in the United States Coast Guard in the Coast Guard Band, where I joined as a saxophonist. But like so many musicians, that wasn't the end of my growth and development and my exploration of all things musician. It was in my early time in the Coast Guard Band that I developed an interest in conducting. So I started to work with some really phenomenal, pretty well-known conductors to learn that craft, and ultimately moved into the position of director of the United States Coast Guard Band, and I've been in this position for about the last 7 years.
Did you know growing up that being a musician was really going to be the path that you took? I know you mentioned it, but was it just something that you knew right away that was all you were going to do, and you had tunnel vision?
Yeah, tunnel vision is maybe a good way of putting it. I didn't have any choice. I don't feel like I had any choice in the matter. This was the thing that I was going to do in my life. And people who have that part of them very early on do talk about this, whether it's, a professional baseball player or athlete or, other musicians. It's an inseparable part of their identity, and you do hear people, and most of the great musicians that you might talk to end up having that similar kind of story where this was their calling, and this is what they felt like they had to do with their life.
Now, my thought when I was researching about our interview today is, does somebody who's in the band participate as an individual in the Coast Guard, or are you purely involved with the band and that's all that you do?
The band is pretty unique. They're in the military. There are ratings, which is your specialty. If you're a medic or an administrator or a mechanic, our rating is that of musicians. So the Coast Guard hires and employs us as musicians. And we are the one and only Coast Guard band. The Coast Guard has one single band, and that is us. We're 55 people big. And when we have a vacancy, if we have a clarinet player that leaves the band, then we'll hold a national search for a clarinet player. And we'll look at any qualified person, civilian, military, and we will find the best player that's available. And there are usually very good players that are available to us because these are well sought after positions. And once we identify somebody, the term we use is musically qualified. So once we identify that candidate who's musically qualified, then we send them to a Coast Guard recruiter where they have to be physically fit and meet all of those basic military demands and requirements before they can enlist into the service and come to the band.
What is the life like for somebody who is in the band? Now, I understand that the band is based at the U.S. Coast Guard Academy in New London, Connecticut. Is there housing there? Or do you folks stay together? Are you living separately? What's it like once you become a band member?
When you become a band member, you do report to New London, Connecticut at the Coast Guard Academy. It's a beautiful campus and a wonderful place to work. And it's a very interesting place to work because there are so many diverse groups that are involved in the academy business, and the band is just one of them. But there's not on-base housing for us. The academy isn't that big, and everybody, the band musicians, most do a career. So most will spend 20 to 30 years in the position. So they have their own families and their own homes, and they live out in the community.
Also, are you performing still as a musician, or are you purely a conductor now?
Well, one might say that, a conductor is a musician, but understood. No, I don't. I'm no longer an instrumentalist. I don't pick up my saxophones anymore. That was something that I had to, as I was preparing to move into the director position, that was part of my thought process. Just realizing that being a director is a pretty intensive, more than full-time job. It's all consuming at times, and the room in my life for maintaining my instrumental skills was probably not going to happen, and that's essentially proven to be true. So I do play very infrequently and only when I'm home alone.
Tell us about the Coast Guard Band. Are you playing locally, nationally, internationally? I know that it is a busy year-round endeavor. What is going on with you folks right now?
Well, we like so many others, we've been living in this COVID environment. So much of the last year has been spent figuring out how to operate in that environment. There's been, developments throughout the year of how aerosols and particulates are spread through wind band playing. So we've had to pay very close attention to the scientific studies that have come out on the subject. And of course, we've had to keep a very close eye on CDC guidance and state guidance and Coast Guard guidance, which are all constantly developing and are all geared towards keeping everybody safe. So the last year has been a big challenge to try to continue to engage with all of our audiences. And, like so many other organizations, we moved to over the last year, we've moved to essentially a completely virtual platform. So we've offered a number of live and pre-recorded broadcasts, and it's been a little bit of an adventure to figure out how to have that meaningful engagement, not just simply put up a video online and just send it out into the world, but how do we continue to have that back and forth with our audiences? And we've had some very good luck. We've performed for about 5 million audience members over the last year, and we've had just millions of interactions just back and forths with our audience members over the last year. But now with the guidance being what it is and policy coming out being what it is, we're now pivoting into returning to live performances that are in person with an actual live audience. And we had our first one last Friday night in Groton. It was a small event, but it was our first live in-person concert that we did in about 14 months, which is probably the longest that I've ever gone since picking up an instrument back in elementary school. But we had about 150 people in the audience, and the return to these kinds of performances is really welcome. Just having that experience last Friday, that live performance, there's no replacement for it. The engagement, the back and forth, the interaction between the performing musicians on stage and that live audience, there's something really electric about that kind of atmosphere. And last Friday's concert was sort of a foreshadowing to our coming season. We've got a robust schedule in the region all around Connecticut and Rhode Island and just the surrounding areas and down to Washington, D.C. of live in-person engagements. I think all or almost all of them are outdoors, but we're finding that this summer compared to last summer, compared to the last year, there's a seemingly a real appetite for these kinds of live events. I think people really miss it. Just that incredible sense of community that's inherent to these kinds of events. I think that there's a real strong desire to get these up and running again, to just have the community come together and have a joint and overwhelmingly positive experience.
Tell us about the creation of the band. When did it start, and how important is it to the Coast Guard?
The Coast Guard Band was developed, it was stood up in 1925. Three men are credited with standing it up. One is the March King himself, John Philip Sousa. The other is Walter Damrosch, who was the conductor of the New York Philharmonic of the time. And then the third person is Lieutenant Charles Bentner, who was the director of the Naval Academy Band at the time. The Coast Guard decided that they wanted a band like the rest of our military counterparts. So in 1925, this band was stood up. At the time, the Coast Guard Academy was actually located at Fort Trumbull and didn't move to its current location until a few years later. But in that time, I mean, we're coming up to 100 years of existence in 2025. That will be our centennial. So in that time, the band has grown in function and in value and capabilities. So we have this really terrific history of being stood up by John Philip Sousa, and that really does mean something. That remains even to this day part of our identity. In 1965, Congress appointed the Coast Guard Band as one of the premier military bands of the United States, and there's only 5 or 6 of them, and that gave us the kind of stature that was, commensurate with what our sister services had, but was also reflective of the quality of the group. And in that time, we've traveled the world. We've played for millions and millions of people. And as I had alluded to before, the musicians in this group, I mean, you really would be hard pressed to find a better collection of musicians really anywhere. What these folks can do is phenomenal. I mean, it crosses over into the realm of magic at times. I would say it's a really special thing that they're able to do when we come together and perform a concert. So that is pretty much today's Coast Guard Band. It's a collection of the best musicians that you'll find anywhere, and they do a phenomenal job of representing the extraordinary professionalism of the women and men of the United States Coast Guard.
Okay, let's hold that thought. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You're tuned into Arts and Entertainment. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Right now, the COVID-19 vaccines are available to millions of Americans, and soon they will be available to everyone.
This vaccine means hope. It will protect you and those you love from this dangerous and deadly disease.
I want to go back to work, and I want to be able to move around.
To visit with Michelle's mom, to hug her and see her on her birthday.
You know what I'm really looking forward to is going to opening day in Texas Ranger Stadium with a full stadium.
We've lost enough people and we've suffered enough damage.
In order to get rid of this pandemic, it's important for our fellow citizens to get vaccinated.
I'm getting vaccinated because we want this pandemic to end as soon as possible.
So we urge you to get vaccinated when it's available to you.
So roll up your sleeve and do your part.
This is our shot.
Now it's up to you.
And welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host. Again, thank you so much for spending time with us today. Greatly appreciate it. Well, another special show for you today. We're talking with Commander Adam Williamson, the director of the United States Coast Guard Band. And again, Commander Williamson, thank you again for spending time with us. I know that you're busy, so thank you again for being here.
My pleasure.
Why don't we talk about the national tour, or the tour that's coming up that's important? Where will you be and when does it start?
Our next tour is planned for 1 year from now, April 2022, and we'll be in the southeast of the United States. So we'll be going through Florida and Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and just sort of work our way back home from there. Our tours are really flagship events for the band. We typically go out for about 2 weeks and engage with audiences. Sometimes they have a lot of familiarity with the Coast Guard, with the service, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes the Coast Guard band, these Coast Guard band concerts are a lot of our audience members' first experience with the Coast Guard. So either way, we see this as a really terrific opportunity to get out and engage with different communities all across the country and share the Coast Guard story and why this service is valuable to the country and how the Coast Guard impacts different regions of the country.
Why don't we talk about the website, and we'll put the address up on the screen. Tell us what our viewer would find if they visit the website.
Sure. The website is first of all the best source of information for Coast Guard Band activity, upcoming Coast Guard Band activity. I'm a little reluctant right now to offer upcoming Coast Guard Band concert schedules because conditions are changing so much, and what it looks like today may not be what remains intact next week. Our schedule is constantly developing. So currently, right now, we do have about 40 different engagements around the region, and you can find most or all of those on the website on the schedule. So that would be the first thing that I'd suggest folks look at. All of our concerts, all of our engagements are free and open to the public, and they're all just a lot of fun and have this really terrific sense of community built in. So other than the schedule, you can find the bios of our musicians, and just reading through just a few of those bios, you really can get a sense of how accomplished these musicians are, the other professional music organizations that they've been attached to. They've all attended the best music schools and conservatories in the country, and they're all really very accomplished musicians. So you can read all about the pretty remarkable careers that they've all had. There's some more information about the band's long history, and we put up some media. And other than the website, we're active on social media. We're primarily up on Facebook. We frequently are updating it with videos, and that's where you can find our live stream concerts. You can find us on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, and I think Instagram should be coming soon. But there's plenty of online sources to find and watch and learn about the Coast Guard and the Coast Guard Band.
Now, I found this interview through the newspaper, through a trio that was going to do a virtual concert, and then I reached out, and then they mentioned that I should speak with you directly as a wonderful interview guest, and here we are today. Do a lot of your members kind of branch out into quartets or trios to perform concerts around the nation or around the world besides being in the band?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the band as a whole, the Coast Guard employs 55 musicians, and we're all stationed here at the Coast Guard Academy. So that's just enough musicians to field a concert band, what you might think of as a traditional military band. But from that group of 55, we can extract a number of small groups. So you mentioned that trio, which was a flute, horn, harp trio. So those members got together and built up a recital program, and we're able to get into a small venue, I believe in Madison, to perform. But this coming Sunday, we're doing a live stream of a newly formed Jazz No Net. So that's 9 players coming together, and that's going to be just a stellar program. As people who are familiar with the Coast Guard Band know, we have an outstanding Dixieland jazz band that maintains a pretty busy schedule over the summer in particular. And from there, yes, we have a brass quintet that's very involved in a lot of Coast Guard ceremonies. We send buglers out for active duty funerals, a woodwind quintet, a saxophone quartet. The list goes on and on and on. And you know, as is so often the case, the groups each almost have a defined function, and you know, depending what the musical function is, what the needs are of the specific event, whether it's ceremonial in nature or whether it's you know, like a public concert, if the venue is large, or if it's small, if it's indoors, outdoors. We have a wide variety of groups that we can offer to serve different functions.
Well, that's a perfect thought that I had. Is we probably have some viewers that would like to have your organization or individual groups come and perform for them. How does somebody, do you have a booking agent? How does somebody get in touch with you to be able to say, please come and play for us?
That's another great question, and that's something that's what we're built to do. We love having those engagements. We like having that interaction when somebody contacts us, which they can do on our website. There's a Contact the Band, so if they go through that system, that will get the process started. And that's how we end up playing for a lot of different communities or a lot of different events. Just somebody will get in touch with us, and we'll have just a conversation and figure out what it is they're trying to do, what kind of event they're holding, and how we might appropriately be able to support or supplement what they have going on. And we're being musicians is what we do. So we want to be involved in events and the communities. But on the website, that would be the best way to contact us. So in addition to civic kind of ceremonies, town anniversaries, or any kind of ceremony that military or civilian that we often support. We obviously do a wide variety of concerts on town greens, or we can send small groups to gazebos or indoor venues at museums. We have a pretty incredibly robust school concert program. So between our school outreach program and our school concerts program, we'll end up reaching about 14,000 students in the region every year. But we also do work with specific high schools that host us. We very often have sent Coast Guard Band musicians in advance to work with the high school players, and then the whole band will come out and perform a concert for that community. And sometimes we'll even do a little side-by-side thing with that high school band. And the limit is in a way it's a little bit of our imagination, what we can come up with. But yeah, dynamic is a word that comes to mind when I think about what our schedule is and the kinds of activities that we are involved in.
When I think about the Coast Guard Band, I think about Washington, D.C. and the presidents and the inaugurations and so on and so forth. Are you involved in things that are happening with government?
Absolutely, yes. Coast Guard headquarters is stationed just right outside of Washington, D.C. and Anacostia. So we do travel down to Coast Guard headquarters quite a bit. And we've had the great honor of participating in just about every presidential inauguration since the band was formed. State funerals. A few years ago, we had the great honor of supporting the President George H.W. Bush memorial service. The Coast Guard Band was stationed outside the National Cathedral. And, those are events of national significance. And the Coast Guard Band has that great privilege and honor of supporting those events as well.
What does the future look like for the band? We're here in 2021. What does 2025 look like? Where will you be? What will you be doing?
2025, I'm glad that you picked that year because that is the centennial of the Coast Guard Band. So we are really putting quite a bit of thought into 2025 and how we would like to celebrate that milestone for us. So in short, the Coast Guard Band should be in front of as many audience members around the country as we possibly can be. We're hoping to be on the West Coast and the East Coast and hopefully a lot of the ground in between. 2020 should be a very big year for us, but really our goal, our mission is to share the Coast Guard story with the American public. And it's such a positive service. It's the life-saving service. I mean, our history says the revenue cutter service, that very first group of ships that were set up by Alexander Hamilton way back in the day, the lighthouse service. It's just all of these services came together to form the Coast Guard, which has a real humanitarian element to it. So in the coming years, the Coast Guard is just going to continue to celebrate the service and to share our service's history and traditions with as much of the American public as we can get in front of.
Well, we have run out of time. I want to thank you so very much for being here today. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much for having me.
And we've been talking with Commander Adam Williamson, the director of the United States Coast Guard Band. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You've been tuned into Arts and Entertainment. Have a terrific day today. Thanks again for joining me. Bye-bye.